Yes, I am ready.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, and this is a work session for the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. We do have a quorum present, Commissioner Miller and myself, although Commissioner Jacobson's tenure officially expires Friday. You know, traditionally, an outgoing official has not been part of the interview process selecting their successor. Before us now, we have the three finalists in this process: Walter Chuck, Catherine Rigby, Ryan Parker. You may have seen, if you've been following this in the media, that we had a fourth finalist, John Heath, but earlier this morning he withdrew his candidacy. So, and we originally planned panels 2 and then 2, but since we've got an odd but wonderful number now, we just figured we'd rotate through all of you. Anybody who is wondering about timeline, we had booked out 3 hours for this. I don't know, with the reduction of one candidate, how that might affect the time. One thing I would like to mention, because I've seen a lot of discussion of it in social media and elsewhere, some people have been urging us to fill the position by a special election. Now, that could be good in a lot of ways, but the Oregon Revised Statute specifically lays out how vacancies in county offices are to be dealt with. The commissioners make the appointment, and that person serves until the next general election.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you addressing that.
Yeah,
I'm sure that might have been a question on people's minds. So,
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything you'd like to say before we get started, Commissioner Miller?
Well, just welcome and grateful for your interest. And I'm looking forward to talking to you today. So thanks for being here.
Okay.
All right.
Would you like to go first, Commissioner Miller, or shall I?
Why don't you start us off,
Okay.
Chair Hall?
All right. Very good. The first question will be answered by Catherine first, then Ryan, then Walter. And it concerns our short-term rental licensing program. As you know, the county has implemented a short-term rental licensing program to balance economic benefits with neighborhood livability and housing availability. So, what's your perspective on the current program, and what changes, if any, would you support to improve its effectiveness? Catherine?
Well, I am glad that this, good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
Commissioners. I'm grateful for the question. Housing is something that I'm very passionate about and have been working on for several years, including with my capstone program in college and now here with the city, but I also worked on that in Salt Lake City. Anytime there is a community that has a lot of vacation visitors, short-term rental is an important program. It serves two needs, right? We do have the short-term visitors who want an opportunity to enjoy our community in a more, let's say, family-friendly environment. So homes are important to make available. So I am glad that this county has addressed those issues because they can be problematic for neighborhoods. And so it's important to have rules in place when you have short-term rental. I feel like have enough short-term rentals here to accommodate those wanting that opportunity. And we need to just be careful stewards of what's available so that our communities don't feel like they're overrun by people that they didn't anticipate being in the community. Unfortunately, there are occasionally bad actors and they come to a community and whoop it up a little bit too much and maybe overstay their welcome. So it's important to be able to enforce the rules that we have. It's important to be able to make those communities feel safe. So I appreciate the goals and the current rules as they stand. I think we need to be a little bit more stringent on the making sure that we have enforcement so that the community feels like their needs are heard when there is abuse in a particular neighborhood. We also need to do monitoring to make sure that those rentals are a reflection of the community and that they're not just being run as a cash opportunity, and that we're presenting ourselves in the right way to the communities that come to visit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ryan.
I appreciate you asked the easiest question first. So this has had a lot of visibility. The STR issue doesn't just affect Lincoln County, it affects all vacation destinations. And proudly, and also in a challenging sort of perspective, STRs are a sector of the economy we have to understand. They do employ a lot of local people that live here in the county, and we need to be cognizant of those jobs and that niche market. As far as that package is a unique way to vacation, and we want people to vacation here. We want people to vacation in a respectful way, but keeping in mind the economic impact. And I know as a counselor, it was sort of, I don't know if it was luck or happenstance, but we had to reduce our overlay zone cap, and we ended up with 176 rentals allowed in the city's overlay zone, which is mostly Nye Beach and Central Newport. And, that has a wait list of over 80 applicants currently. And so we went with an approach that to sunset transfer of vacation rental licensure across family members, or at sale, they have to get onto the wait list. And so that wait list can act as a neighborhood defender in a way. It can act as a pause and say, all right, so this license has expired. Now we have to look and see, what's this applicant want to do with the property? What are the historic issues with this cluster of vacation rentals in this particular neighborhood or in this part of the county? And I think it's nuanced, but I do feel that it is a part of our tourism economy that is economically important. Also, I'd say that the fairness across zones that y'all have set up is important to look at. All right, so what are the densities and how are those working? And maybe one measurable thing could be an annual report coming back to the board and say, zone 1 through 8, here's what our community service officer is experiencing on the ground. Here are the complaints. Here are the follow-ups that maybe the sheriff had to have a call out for this particular spot, and have that, friendly conversation with that owner, and keep it on a relationship basis. And then the county can continue to work towards the good work they've already done, but also, what are the standards for our community service officers to be successful, to do the enforcement, and then the septic issue, making sure that when those licenses come up for renewal, the septic inspections aren't onerous on the owner, but are protecting the watershed and protecting the environment. So it's all encompassing. It's the environmental component, it's the jobs component. And I think the roadmap of what you've done in the last few years is promising. And I would look forward to making sure that all the sectors have success.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Walter.
Thank you, and thank you for the privilege to come here and interview with you folks too. I think short-term rentals they're here in the county, and I think that we need to be able to work with the owners of the short-term rentals and also work with the communities that these rentals are in. The influx of visitors, they do put strain on our services, whether that be EMS, sheriff, and also our local infrastructure. A lot of the short-term rentals in the county are in places with septic systems and so forth, and some of the places have been expanded, and we want to make sure that those septic systems can handle the extra usage. I work in water utilities, and that also goes to what the infrastructure for the water, and make sure that they maintain those structures. I think that the county has addressed the issue well. I know all the cities and the county have a backlog on those. And I think we need to be able to work with the communities and also with the homeowners to protect our communities, but also to make sure that we are not doing anything with the rights of the property owners and come with a happy medium. I liked Ryan's idea of a yearly report, but I think we should also work with the cities to make sure that we are working together to make sure that we are welcoming to new people, but also respectful of the people that live in these communities. I think we should be sure that we do outreach throughout the state and see how other communities in rural Oregon are dealing with this. We are here in Lincoln County, we are a destination. And so the number of people is just going to be growing, and we need to look at that and see how we can address that in the future.
Okay, thank you. And before I hand off to Commissioner Miller, just one thing that I meant to mention at the beginning, but forgot. And for anybody watching who's wondering about our timeline and process beyond this meeting, we will not be in public deliberations today. Both of us will review our notes, your applications, have some time for contemplation, and then this will be scheduled as a decision item 1 week from today at our regular February 19th meeting.
Thanks for the clarity. Yep.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, let's move to question number 2. And we started with Catherine, so I think we're shifting to Ryan.
No. Commissioner, did you get this sheet from staff? See,
There we go.
yeah.
Okay, we'll start with Walter. Thank you for pointing me in the right direction there. Okay, question number 2. Emergency preparedness. Lincoln County faces natural disaster risks, including earthquakes, tsunamis, and wildfires. How would you ensure the county is adequately prepared to respond to and recover from emergencies? And what role do you see the Board of Commissioners playing in this effort?
Well, okay, that's a big one, Casey. So as a port commissioner, I did work on some as far as at sea things and what would need to be done. Can be concerned about what would happen with the bridge, whether that would make our port available to have things come in by ship. We have highlighted that our airport is the only airport above the tsunami zone on the entire coast. So I think that we need to make sure that we highlight that and that there is emergency preparedness there. As far as as a tsunami, I think we need to make sure that visitors, which is probably the most important, because at any time we can double or triple the population of Newport, Lincoln City, Yachats, all the small towns, make sure that we have enough information with them. You have a safety officer. We need to make sure that there's information to visitors. It's very hard to, the hardest part is being able to notify someone who just drove over here from, say, Kansas, Idaho, or something like that, that they are in a tsunami zone. There's very little warning if we do have a near event versus a distant event. I think the Hatfield building, we should be able to highlight that. The hill there by the bridge, that's another safety part. There is going to be some state funding that we can go after, federal funding if that's available. As far as emergency preparedness, the main thing that I learned was that the hardest part is going to be communication, whether cell phones are out, being able to tell people that this is how you can communicate in an emergency. Who's going to be in charge of that? We need to work with the Coast Guard. We need to work with the local police. Need to work with sheriffs about what the protocols for that would be. It's a big subject, and it's something you can talk about. But I think keeping it simple, letting people know where they need to go, who they need to contact, and who the person to talk to is. So
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. And if you do need the questions repeated at any time, let me know too, okay? Okay.
So thank you for this question. I feel like I've spent a lifetime in emergency preparation coming from the community that I've come from, who also faced an earthquake that is expected at any day in Utah and has faced a couple of smaller ones. Emergency preparation is very important, and I think this commission has a dual responsibility with preparation. So in the first way that this commission or that this county can help the community is in self-preparation, right? The county itself has to prepare for keeping the lines of communication open, having communication, portable communication towers available and at their disposal. We need to have support and coordination between our first responders and our emergency responders. And the city of Newport has an emergency response position, and I'm not sure the county does, but if that individual is responsible for that coordination and for the MOUs that need to happen for cross coordination up and down the coast. So that needs to happen on the county side to make sure that the county itself is well prepared with Connex boxes and equipment and supplies. But then we also have the responsibility of reaching out to the public and making sure that the public understands that they have a responsibility to be self-prepared, because no matter how well prepared anyone along the coast is, that there will be a portion of time, regardless of the emergency, whether it's tsunami or earthquake or the Cascadia event, that they will be without help. That's unavoidable. And so they need to be prepared in their households, as my household is done, by having 72-hour kits and backup food and water, having blankets and being mobile if necessary. And so that communication needs to happen in a way that's coordinated and not fear-inducing. And I think the city that we're in has done a good job of that and putting out that communication, but also in doing realistic training. So we recently had a 2-day training that happened up at the airport, where we introduced that to the community and to responders and to people who will be in positions to help the community. We need to get the community familiar with Connex boxes and what to do when an emergency hits.
Yes.
How do you deploy those and how do you use the equipment that's in them? We need to also be inclusive in language. We need to make sure that the people who don't speak English in our community are also familiar with what to do, because sometimes it's those that haven't heard the information or don't know what's coming or what we're planning for that can be a suck on the resources. And so we want to be sure that we plan across the county to be prepared to deal with that situation in a calm and coordinated manner so that the community feels calm and that we have it all coordinated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the question.
Yeah.
It's on the forefront of a lot of people's minds as to what would happen in whether it's a Cascadia event or what. But we are lucky to have advocates for emergency preparedness start this conversation, not just here in Lincoln County, but across the region. And my thanks to Chris Goldfinger and his team of people at Oregon State, because they really have been, they've produced TV for public media, they've done road shows, and I think it's so important to do that outreach. But it really comes down to what are the resources and how do we deploy them? So funded positions, like Kathy was talking about, emergency preparedness coordinators are really important in an uncertain budgetary landscape. A lot of people that live in rural parts of the county know the roads because they've spent their lives here, but a lot of people don't know the roads. And sometimes, I don't know it for a fact, but I have heard that sometimes road signs get shot out. And so road and evac routes take, a second eye at, even outreach like painting tsunami inundation stuff. Like the city did a great job of painting 40th, showing people painting over by the middle school, those places that will become de facto shelters. Give that visible outreach. Here are the safe places. Here are the safe routes, and just continually push that information out. We have a great PIO that can help with that. Embracing the technology of getting this information out to social media is important. I have personal experience touring and touristing, I guess you could say too. Both the 2004 and 2011 tsunami areas. One was in Banda Aceh, Indonesia, And Thailand was heavily affected, and I visited Thailand not long after that event and saw the scale of what they're up against to rebuild the infrastructure. And, Thailand could employ the National Army to help them. And so that's a little bit more of a lift here. And so we got to look at, you have great resiliency plans the counties put together. You have the climate adaptation plan. Those things can be parallel streams towards preparedness. They used to say 72 hours. Now they're saying 3 weeks ready. So most people may not have the resources or even the knowledge base on how to store supplies so they won't go bad. And then we have to go back and look at where around the county and our smaller towns with fewer resources, where are those caches? Are they at the 60-foot level with the bright blue paint on the road? Maybe, maybe not, depending on the situation. Some parts of the county are extremely low lying, which makes us a little bit more vulnerable than other parts of the coast. But also, there's so many great people that can work together and ensure that survivability and health of residents after an event can be as good as can be expected. So reviewing cash supplies, the city funded a bilingual CERT program, which is quite successful and is continuing forward, and maybe we can roll that out countywide. That'd be fantastic. But it's really relationships, lean on each other, figure out how can we work together on this and share resources, share money, share time, share FTEs, and that's tough because everyone's busy. The city funded a Wi-Fi trailer last year in our budget where the fire departments have a Wi-Fi hotspot that can be towed behind a brush rig. So first responders have access to the internet, not just for Facebook, but for life-sustaining services, talking to water providers, gas providers, all those things, making sure maybe the county can look into funding a couple of those. We helped Central Lincoln with the permitting to fund resiliency in the power grid, and they've done a great job. Their utility gets credit for putting that new line across the reservoir, which can maybe prevent what happened in the ice storm last year. Getting feeds from both ends of town, that's fantastic, and they deserve our congratulations for working on that important project. We can look at portable generators for keeping lift stations operating for all of our county special road districts, sewer districts, that kind of thing. So portable generators have come a long way. Some are using hydrogen fuel now. I guess they just did a demo in Depot Bay recently about that. So maybe the role for the BOC there would be to help look for grant money in an uncertain future, getting generators and other infrastructure hardening and emergency response tools for all these great special districts around the county. And then the relationship with ODOT is essential because, Highway 101 is an economic lifeline. The bridge, as Walter mentioned, is important too. But, they're a big state agency, and we needed to pound the pavement and continue that good relationship and make them understand that rural Oregon needs them. Rural Oregon relies on their fleet of equipment and their mainline folks that do the bulk of the work in that agency and do a great job.
Thank you.
All right, question number.
Said
Oh, wait.
everyone's doing great. I
Oh,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah, okay. Yeah, and we start, the rotation for this question again will be Catherine, Ryan, and then Walter. Wait a minute. Yes,
Ryan, Walter, then Catherine.
wait a minute, yeah. Yeah,
All right.
okay. We both
We're getting there.
got a little
You can arm
confusion
wrestle
on
for it
that.
if you
Yeah,
want.
really. Okay, number 3, Ryan's first, and this is about homeless response efforts. Homelessness, I think, as we all know, remains a critical issue in Lincoln County. What strategies or policy approaches would you support to address homelessness, including shelter availability, transitional housing, and long-term solutions?
Another easy one. There's subpopulations of people that find themselves houseless, and most of it is through no fault of their own. And there's a subsect of people who are suffering from mental illness and addiction. And I think the solutions for those two larger populations are different. And I think through the governor's most recent bill 4130, talking about it addresses all sorts of things with homelessness. And they're really, I went to City Day as a counselor, and they're talking a whole lot about 4130 and how that's going to play out. And honestly, it's really complicated. But what isn't complicated is the facts, is that our county is, 47% economically insecure. The numbers from State Economist. A lot of the jobs aren't paying, what it takes to fuel a mortgage or the ever increasing market rents. And so it's all hands on deck, and housing propels economic success. It propels economic security. So I don't think anything's off the table. Multifamily, high density, triplexes, we don't have a dearth of flat buildable land here. I'm sure you know that. But everything should be on the table. And ideally, as much of those units under the city's housing production strategy, we're taking all inroads, and it's we had a consultant go through it, and we're rolling out small bite-sized successes from that program. But um, it's tough. There's definitely a need for more subsidized housing, but that does fall on the tax base. And so we have to look at what market rate projects can we push through, with giving developers opportunities for SDC delays, or reimagining what that might look like, looking at where does the infrastructure already exist, where the most number of units would lower the sale price of those homes. I think some houses that are built on the coast are big and not within the reach of a lot of the workforce. So there has to be all silos, subsidized, market rate, and everything in between. And it's not a today solution. It's the whole state needs, 37,000 units be online each year, and they're whittling away at that, but obviously the need exceeds the resources available. But where we can be successful is continuing to look at creative solutions where you have county properties, or the housing agency has a way to, get more units in where the quality of life is the same, but the outcome is better. So I think all solutions, but housing leads to economic success. It leads to business success. It's really the umbrella of the use of resources to get more units built is I think the most important thing to consider.
Okay.
Thank you.
Walter.
Walter, thank you. Yeah, housing and unhoused people, that's a big deal, especially in a rural county that is dealing with budgetary restrictions that you don't see very often. Number one, I think you need to deal with these people with compassion. You just can't look at them as something that you overlook. I think we need to address that. As Ryan said, people with substance addiction, mental health problems. So I think we need to make sure that we have the Health and Human Services ability here for the county to address those people, and make sure that they know that help is there, and that the staff is there to help these people. It's not going to be solved easily. If you're going to increase capacity, the county really doesn't have the ability to just start building houses. We can work with independent and private and public entities to whether it's through foreclosed property, or working with them on some of the permits and so forth that the county issues, to make it more attractive for them to start building here. We would need to work with the cities. The cities have a lot more area than the county does to address that, and work with the state, work with the federal government to make sure that we can address this issue. We have a lot of people that work outside of town, our sheriff's department, EMTs and so forth. A lot of them don't live here, and we need to make sure that the people that are providing services to the residents of the county that those people that are providing the services are here and not living out of town. We need to do more high-density housing if possible. That, once again, I don't see a lot of parts in the county where unincorporated areas where we can do that. That would include working with the cities. One other thing is if you're going to be adding more housing, we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure capabilities to service those houses. I know a lot of the smaller areas that I work with in water infrastructure, we need to make sure that the water is there to make sure that we can address the water needs of these new places. Septic also and treatment. We need to make sure that when we do build out, we do it responsibly. We don't want to make sure that we are creating more environmental issues than we did. Where we put these, the last we were asking about disasters, one thing we didn't talk about was fire. Fire is a big issue. And if we're going to be putting houses out there in areas where unincorporated areas where there's a lot of growth, we need to make sure that they're defensible areas and the infrastructure to fight fires in case in the happenstance that those happen are there. The infrastructure that you would put in should be underground. It shouldn't be vulnerable to disasters, or as least vulnerable as possible. Once again, going back to the housing and the homeless, it's an issue that we're going to be dealing with, and there is no magic wand that you can be handed. All hands on deck. Working with the city, working with private entities, working with the state, and working with the federal government to address this and make sure that we have the services to provide available and the people there to provide those services to those people. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Catherine.
Yes, I appreciate what Walter and Ryan have both said. I worked with the Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness for a number of years. And as part of that work, I also was part of a group called Opportunity Starts at Home. The key word in that sentence I just said was the coalition. So it requires coordinated work across city lines. The county is in a good position to help facilitate that, to facilitate coordination. When you have a large Office of Health and Human Services, those are the individuals and the subject matter experts that need to be involved in coordinating across city lines and doing the work to help our unhoused neighbors. And they need to obviously be treated with compassion. Their needs need to be addressed, but we know that no other need can be addressed until they're housed. And so programs like coordinated entry are important, short-term transitional housing, very important. Shared housing, also a new idea, but also very important. So you can get the most per square footage in a place if you allow shared housing and you have that model. Some of our unhoused folks also need case managers and caseworkers. Are unable to be housed or they have to relearn how to be housed. So all that kind of help is important and can be coordinated if you have all of the players at the table at the same time. And that's what's most important for getting that work done, that all of the players have to coordinate so that one individual who is unhoused is known to the entire gamut of opportunities that's available and the services that are available for that person at the onset. In Salt Lake City, we moved from a shelter model into a hub model so that someone could make their unhoused period of time very brief, and so that they could have all of the services in one location. That may not be possible here at the county, but coordination certainly is with our memorandums of understanding, where our coordinated work. We can certainly do that and accomplish that with the level of expertise that's available here at the county. And then it's obviously a housing issue. One of the things that I've loved about learning about Oregon as I've moved here is that we're a we'll try anything community. So the tiny home situation is great. Shared housing is fabulous. That we're committed to trying anything that's possible to help this community, and that's fantastic. So I think innovation and creativity is important. You have to be willing to do that and to dedicate the effort to that. It doesn't always require a lot of funding. I think the funding's been available. In Salt Lake City, we discovered that funding wasn't the answer. It was more coordination and boots on the ground. We have a fantastic event that helps the unhoused where we allow them to come in one location in one day for services that are much needed: dental care, haircuts, clothing, We provide them everything that's needed, and they look forward to that opportunity so that that allows the service providers to also be on hand to service them and give them the needed assistance. Models like that can happen in this community because I know this is a friendly and outgoing community that wants to serve its fellow man. And so I think those kinds of opportunities are available here at this county, at the county level, and will go a long way for helping our unhoused folks. Housing is always going to be a challenge. It's going to be an increasing challenge. But, you know, communities are judged on how it treats the least. And so we have an obligation to serve the unhoused, and I think we can do it here in this county.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Everyone is doing fantastic. We are jumping to question 4. Catherine, on question 4, we're going to start with you. This is in the domain of annual budget and fiscal responsibility. The adoption of the county's annual budget requires balancing priorities, funding critical services, and ensuring long-term financial sustainability. What principles and priorities would guide your approach to budget decisions? And at any time, I can repeat any of that back for you.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
I may need you to repeat.
Yeah.
No, actually, I want to commend this county. I did listen to the mid-year budget report that you just went through in your budget exercise. And you're in a good position. You're well positioned to deal with the upcoming challenges that are certain to happen in an uncertain economic environment. The priorities are key, I think. So you're charged with creating the priority and sort of the environment in which you handle all county business. And so that becomes important because you do have to make tough decisions. I understand you have a lot of personnel issues to deal with. You have pay increases that may be coming that you need to deal with. You've got negotiated contracts with the public service employees that are upcoming. So there's a lot coming that you're going to have to do, even with a surplus in the budget currently. So a lot of work to be done and a lot of tough decisions to be made. But what you can do is set those goals and priorities up front and strategically plan to meet those goals. Also strategically plan to have a rainy day fund for the unexpected. And I think that's the mindset that I would have in dealing with any upcoming budget discussions. What are our goals? How are we meeting those goals? Are we evaluating the performance of what we've done thus far against those goals? And do we have those at the forefront anytime we make a decision? So the priority is key because you can argue to spend or not spend on a number of different factors. But once you've set the priority, it's important to stick to that because you've committed to the community that that's what's important. And so that would be how I would navigate budget discussions and ongoing. And also keeping in mind that we have to save for a rainy day. You have to be prepared to pivot and to deal with the unexpected. And in this uncertain times we're not sure what's coming from the federal government, we can't always be certain that grant funding or funding from the federal government is going to continue. And so we have to be prepared to meet minimum services for our community.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Well, everybody likes budget time. And over the past 6 years, we've worked to pass annual city budgets that, exceed $100 million. And most recently, our budget was audited, and there was an audit of no findings, which is the best result you can expect. And so the budget team at the city deserves great praise for that. I think that shows that we can stick a fork in the budget and know that we're assuming positive intent. We're working hard to make sure that the city is providing the resources to those who need them within the confines of what we are allowed to collect in taxes. It's always you have to go into this in public service to try to do the greatest good to help the most number of county residents. That's just baked in, and I don't find that that's not the case. I think that's just good to state it for the record, though, that doing the greatest good and trying to make sure in that budget process that the amenities for the underserved, for the veterans, for the folks experiencing homelessness, that they have a budgetary seat at the table, and that's just, the county has a great, you know, public outreach and service focused, you know, wing at the county health department, and they advocate for the people who aren't able to advocate for themselves quite well. But when it comes to a budget for a big county of over 50,000 people, maybe we can reimagine what's possible. Look and see, maybe there's been budgetary priorities that have been missed, that when you match it with a grant, it becomes doable. And I'd love to look at that kind of thing. COLAs are a budgetary struggle. However, bargaining units rely on COLAs to affect their own quality of life, and their own employee retention is helped when these units bargain. So you have to take the 10,000-foot view of retention and onboarding when they see that they can bargain, and when they see that, you know, even that small COLA can help families, you know, take that vacation or go to moonshine twice a month instead of once, or just those real important qualities of life are important when it comes to looking at the cost of FTEs. It's very all encompassing. I think we need and the state is discussing this right now, we need a wildfire resiliency fund. I think based on what happened in 2020 in the north part of the county, we are vulnerable, and we need to make sure that we're communicating through all the emergency response channels, that having a fund set aside, what percent, that could be worked out in the details, but that fund could go into acquiring county properties that could become a county forest, and then we have revenue for funding, you know, school to work programs. We have trees that are upright that are storing carbon, which makes us more resilient. And then we have money in the next budget cycle or the next 20 years when those trees get ready to harvest and the county gets that money. The quality of life expenditures that you all have made in the past have an impact, and thank you for those. We got to look at quality of life expenditures too, like road repair and invasive plant treatment, which is in my wheelhouse. I think making those rights of way safer with, you know, getting money from ODA and things like that to make line of sight better on county roads where they come together, making fire safety issues doable by funding them is important. And what we've done successfully at the city was recruit financial industry people to be on the budget committee. And we've had great experience with that. We have some CPAs on there, and, you know, it's hard to recruit for volunteer committees, as you all know. But I don't know, it's fun, and look at all the great people you get to meet. And then I give Commissioner Jacobson all the credit on her work on childcare programs. We need to look at state DHS grants to match programs happening at the county and try to bolster the opportunities for people to start their own businesses. And there's been great progress in that, but we got to just take it to the next level and try to find all the money out there and work towards reducing the childcare desert as much as we can. I think that's a really important part of this upcoming budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Right, thanks. Actually, I'm kind of glad I got to go last on this one. Well, you know, the report just got done with our audit. We did have a finding of no findings on ours, which I'm very proud of. Congratulations on the city also. But, you know, let's address the gorilla in the room. You know, and I would like to, you know, commend the county for, you know, having such a success of getting all the grant money for the last couple of years. I mean, that has really been a big help to the community, and also making sure those funds are secured, whether that's the CARES, the ARPA money, and so that money is there to be spent. Commended also on your budget surplus, you know, your rainy day fund. But, you know, looking forward, I think that we need to realize that whether that's the $20 million that Commissioner Hall talked about, possible reduction, I don't think I think that might be a little conservative. Optimistically,
Mm.
you can look at the reduction in federal funds that might be coming. And that doesn't, what didn't get addressed was also the federal money that comes through state in the form of pass-throughs. So that could be a lot more. How the other entities in the counties are going to be affected, whether that be the BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service, Forest Service, what those other federal agencies and what their shortcomings, and will the county be asked to make up some of those
Mm.
those deficits? We could be looking at no seasonal workers and things like that for any of the federal offices. So, going forward with the budget, I would look at basically, you have the general fund that you can depend on. There will be some dedicated state funds, but I think that what the county should do is, look back to what happened in 2008, 2010, when they had to have the 30% budget reductions. And, I'm not an alarmist, but I want to be real about that. And in this times of uncertainty, you need to make sure that everybody's aware that there could be some tough decisions that need to get made. That would require meeting with the staff of all the departments and just being honest with them and, saying best case scenario, medium scenario, worst case scenario, and making sure that everybody's aware of that and addressing that before, you see the train coming at you. You want to make sure that you make enough time to get out of the way. I think if there was to be some cuts in the budgets, or we need to make sure that there's some reductions, make sure that we're providing public safety, public health, roads, and the essential services that we provide first. And then expanding programs should be, an afterthought, honestly.
Mm.
You can have those plans there, but the availability of the funds to address some of those programs might not be there. And if you are looking at doing some cuts in the budgets or to agencies or service we provide, we should be focused on that to make sure that we still operate efficiently as a county. Other than that, the county relies on taxes, fees, and services, and those are the ones we can depend on, base decisions on those, work with our state legislators, and then also with our federal legislators to see what might be coming down. With the port, we're looking at some projects that we are going out for federal funding on. We might not be able to do those. If the county had plans of doing some other projects that would rely on federal funds, those might not happen. It's just to be honest, these things could happen, they could not happen, but to ignore them would not be wise. What the county has done really well, they do have the economic grant program. I think little bits of money to other parts in the county, whether that be out there in Nashville, that we send a little bit of money out there. It's a little bit of money spread out their county to help economic development is wise. So if we can spend a little bits of money here and there, call it low hanging fruit or whatever, what have you, help out other parts of the county and not just the larger population centers. If that's possible in the budget, I think that's, something we can do also. But I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but, we are facing some uncertainty. And I think that we need to make sure that everybody in the county is aware of it, and the different departments are given other scenarios other than, best case scenario. Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine? Wait a minute. Ryan, sorry. That was everybody.
Yep.
Okay. I guess I'm so focused on absorbing your answers and ideas, I'm messing up a little bit on logistics, but thank you to everybody for bearing with me.
And Chair Hall.
Yes.
So we're going to go into question 5. And when we get done with question 5, can we just take a quick bathroom break?
Oh,
after that?
definitely.
Is that okay with everyone? Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. Okay, now, question number 5, and we'll have Walter, Catherine, and Ryan. So. Yes. Question number 5 concerns economic and environmental balance. Lincoln County's economy relies on industries such as tourism, fishing, and forestry, while also prioritizing environmental sustainability. Now, how would you approach economic development while protecting the county's natural resources and ensuring long-term sustainability?
Thank you, Chair Hall. Well, we have a great tourist economy. I think that we need to make sure that we protect our natural areas. Uh, we have beautiful state parks. We have uh, wildlife refuges. We have private timberlands where they allow people to go out and do hikings. We have wilderness area down by Yachats. So we need to make sure that we ensure that these areas are protected, but also managed well and are given access by the people. Uh, I think that Lincoln County has done a good job with protecting these areas, but also allowing them to be open. Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
The county economy relies on industries such as tourism, fishing, and forestry, while also prioritizing environmental stability. And again, the question is, how would you approach economic development while also protecting the county's natural resources and ensuring long-term sustainability?
Okay, thank you. So we do have a lot of private timberlands. Basically, they're managed well, and they also allow open resources. I think we need to make sure that the timber harvest practices are sound and follow the guidelines. But we also need to address the fact that these landowners have a 30 to 50-year investment in their lands, and they're allowed to harvest their crops, which timber is wisely. We have a vital fishing industry. I think their fishing industry is 10 to 12% of the economic impact for the county. We need to make sure that those fisheries are well managed. We do have the last working waterfront on the West Coast. It's a big attraction. I think our fishing industry has been conducted very responsibly. We need to make sure that we have access to those fisheries, but also make sure that the tourists learn about those and learn the impact to the counties and also to the United States. We had some issues with natural energy in the form of offshore wind, so I sat on that. I think that we need to make sure that we address our needs for renewable energy sources, but that also needs to be done responsibly. We have the Pacific Energy Center offshore here. I was part of that. I think that that's gonna be a very a big highlight for the engineering department, not just for OSU, but I think it's gonna be it is gonna be the first grid connected test site. So I think that it's gonna highlight our area, bring some economic growth there. And we need to look at other ways to bring economic development here, not just the existing, whether that be working at the aquarium, making the roads easier to access, working on traffic corridors, and making sure that we bring new dollars into the county. Everything's on the table. I don't think we should not look into new opportunities. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Catherine?
I love this question. So I have an economic development background, and I'm used to working with small businesses to make sure that we have not only recruitment but retention. So I think the question in its essence is, how do we balance that economic development with environmental concerns? And the answer in my mind is creativity and innovation. So we bring that to this community. We invite creative new resources of energy to this community. We invite businesses who have new economic opportunities and job creation to this community that isn't already here. We support the small local businesses who are here and help them see the potential to expand. beyond the borders of this coastal community. So when we can increase our tax base, when we can invite new business, when we can creatively invite those that are having the solutions that we need to our environmental concerns to do business here, we're increasing that tax base and we're also protecting our environment. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think it's an exciting opportunity for any community to focus in on economic development. That's something that we should be supporting and encouraging, and we need to grow, because that's we can increase fees all we want. That's never going to get us the money that we need, that increasing our tax base will do, providing more jobs that are higher pay. In other communities, I know that inviting the financial or tech centers to their communities have been super important, and sometimes you can even focus in on certain areas of the county that can house a little bit larger facilities that maybe we can't here on the coast. But we do have unincorporated areas that can invite those types of businesses that can create job growth and opportunity, and bring real wealth to a community. Tourism, services, and sales, I think in the last economic data report that I read, was very important to this community. So we need to bolster that. We need to give our small businesses the opportunity to do business with the big boys. You know, they need to be able, they know our community, they need to be able to serve the community. We need to give them all the tools and opportunities that that they need to be able to expand and grow and meet those needs, along with any other big box or other type of traditional economic opportunity that generally goes into communities that are growing. And our community is growing, so our needs are changing. So we need to be able to meet those needs with economic development and have those opportunities come to a community. Protecting resources is a fabulous concept, and I've been working with Newport in helping find funding for those opportunities. They're out there. We don't know how long they'll be out there, but they are out there, and pursuing those is very important for any community. So we want to change over to renewable energy. We want to be sustainable, but we also want to have a community that's excited about keeping it sustainable and keeping these beautiful coastline pristine and available to the next generation. And so we also engage with the community to participate and be part of the solutions to keeping, they're the watchdogs ultimately. They'll tell us when our beaches aren't good enough. They'll tell us when our communities don't look right. And so we need to be engaged with the community and have them be the sort of alarm to us to help us gauge if we're doing a good job in meeting that balance. And also, we need to be good about working with the legislative. I've worked with the League of Cities and Towns, and I know it's so important to have to take the pulse of the legislature and to see where they are and what they're providing that we can take full advantage of to make sure that we can keep our communities the way that we want to. So being abreast of everything that the legislature is doing and all of the opportunities they afford for funding and for programming that we can bring here to the coast, and making them not forget that the coast is here and important to the entire state's economy. Sometimes they need to be reminded of that, because it's easy to forget. We're out here, we're smaller, but they need to know how important we are as an asset to the entire state, because we do bring people here because of the natural resources that are here to us.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Parker.
I don't know if you're aware, but I dabble in the environmental realm.
I've
So
heard rumors to that effect.
I would say if you need any like beach plastic, I can totally hook you up. I got some in my car. Climate change is a challenge of our time. So what is it that's needed to thrive? So it's a fair question about balance. So you have to think about it in a short-term and a long-term way. So there's been great work that's been done, and the county's been at the table. So the Aquina Bay Estuary Management Plan was penned last year and updated after the 1982 plan, and things have changed since 1982. So that sets up pretty clear state and local timelines as to how the estuary can be developed, how we can increase, the opportunity for the very limited dock space down on the bayfront, how we can look at riparian restorations and where those would be most effective considering limited resources. And there's so much good news here. We have a great soil and water conservation district that's doing important work, especially in the rural parts of the county. We have a network of watershed councils that are doing great work on private land. And private landowners, since most of the county is zoned timber conservation, really are a huge asset to be tapped. They know the land, they work the land. We need to start trying to find ways to repair and restore areas that the county owns or manages. Guided by good science, and it's local science. We have probably one of the most robust research facilities just across the bridge. And when it also comes to the balance, we have to think about what are the benefits of the residents for what the county does. Residents that live here and grown up here, they deserve to recreate locally without, being affected by Sunday in July Lincoln City traffic, for example. They love those rural areas, the rural boat ramps, the rural campgrounds. And let's look at partnering with some of the state agencies to maybe expand or reimagine what camping here in the county is for people that want to just get away and they need a staycation because of economic pressures. There once was a dam that might collapse. So we have the dam here at Big Creek, and I blew a hole in my vacation budget, went to Congress, and Peter DeFazio was sitting on one side of the table, and I said, Congressman DeFazio, this dam project for Big Creek is not about one particular aspect. It's a regional project. Regional survivability for water supply is this project. And, when he retired, Congressman Schrader gave us 60 million as an authorization, and who knows what's going to happen, but we need to make sure that as a county structure and as a water user of the city, we need to make sure that this project keeps moving forward. We're successfully at 30% design. We're going to 60%, starting to look at who might be the general for this more than $100 million project, which benefits the county. And the county relies upon it because there are not a lot of reservoirs around here. They're not easy to build. And we need to look at maybe some solar farms with storage for emergencies, a North County one, a South County one for fairness and resiliency is important. I think marketing sustainable tourism, and there's some great models on the South Coast about how to do ecotourism with a low footprint and have life-changing experiences for people visiting us and seeing our great environment. As the other two panelists have spoken about, we also need to find ways that tourists can help fund our road grid needs and finding ways to around state preemption on how to use tourism funds. I think I've spent a lot of time on that in the city, and we're working very hard to see how we can bolster DLCD goals 16, 17, 18, and 19, and how we can make sure our coastal shorelands are robust. And when county property comes onto the county rolls through receivership, we can find ways to make that be, environmental setback properties and have those trees get bigger, and then, look at landslide prevention and things like that on lands that county absorbs. And I think as a daughter dad, I always get that term wrong. I tell my kids, I'm trying to help make sure your future is more stable and more successful. And you could stay in Lincoln County. You can stay here and be successful. And we want to set up programs for kids in our school district to be the next wave of climate job applicants. There's great programs like at the Port of Toledo, and we can just expand those. There's great programs all over the county, but we need to find funding for them. And we just, as a personal residential comment, I think we need to support the Marine Science Center folks in uncertain times. There are going to be layoffs, and there are going to be struggles with grants and grant curtailment. And we just need to know as a body that we can try to support them in any way we can. And the 10,000-foot view is we need to seek out and try to obtain more public-private partnerships to get funding. And I know you did great with GP on the Juno project, so congrats on that. That's a great system. And just need to turn over every rock. Under there's funding, maybe some agates, but the public-private partnership thing is really important.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, looks like we're now through the first 5 questions, and as earlier suggested, we'll take a break of about 5 minutes or so, let everybody stretch, use the facilities if you need to. We're adjourned at 10:05, and we'll try to reconvene at 10. Well, good morning again, and this is a work session of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. We have the three finalists for the appointment to the position being vacated by Katie Jacobson before us. We've been through 5 questions, 4 more to go. People no doubt are wondering about the timeline for the decision. We're not going to have deliberation or a decision today. This will provide both Commissioner Miller and myself some time for review and thought about what direction we might want to go. And then this will be scheduled as a action item for a decision 1 week from today at our regular meeting on Wednesday, February 19th. Okay. Commissioner Miller, I believe we resume with you in question number 6.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Hall. Question number 6. Going to start with Mr. Parker. And remember, if you need me to repeat back any elements of the question, the full question at any point, let me know. Community engagement and accountability. County commissioners play a key role in engaging with residents and ensuring accountability in decision-making. How would you improve public communication and engagement in county government process?
Excellent question. So everyone's accountable to somebody. Everybody's got a boss. So the board's boss is the voters of Lincoln County, and so that's quite a wide constituency to keep in mind. I would say that during my time in the council, I've had the privilege of working in a very functional governance system as a volunteer, where I was able to move forward with a number of important issues that benefited the community. In some cases, I was very much not successful with everything I proposed, but there was enough mutual respect. And though it may have been hard to stomach, I didn't necessarily like some of the decisions, but it was in the best interest of the city, and I respected the final outcome. I think that civility and using logic and reason, which I'm unfortunately burdened with focusing on as most of my personality, can create the most favorable conditions for making good commission decisions moving forward. If appointed, I would certainly work to strive and aim in all of my being towards courtesy, respect, and fairness in all of the commission interactions to build a continued climate for thoughtful decision-making that benefits everyone in the county as much as possible. I think being physically present is something that voters really like and care a great deal about. And I think, I had to drop David's name in here, and I just think that our state rep shows up to all sorts of events, and I think that's the way I would act as a commissioner. I think being where people are at and understanding what issues they're struggling with is the way to move forward. And I think as far as any improvements, being there, showing up, not necessarily for more formal events, but for informal events, and being, my door would always be open, and I would always be okay with hearing feedback that wouldn't necessarily be positive. But I think being a good listener is an essential skill in being an elected official, and I think that's one of the traits that I'm known for at my job now, is listening and trying to be creatively solving problems that in and outside of the government structure. I think having relationships with people where they know that you're honest and hardworking sets you up for success. And maybe to my detriment, maybe I work too hard, but there's a life force in caring about others, and there's a life force in wanting to help people. And I respect the county for all the work they do in trying to make people's lives better. And I think in the day and age of social media, I don't think that it would be unreasonable to have more of a footprint in there. And I know there's talented staff that can do more, news, news on the socials. And I do think that the website reboot's fantastic. As a constituent, it's easier to find things now. So well done on that.
Mm.
And I just, relationship building. It's a thing people say, but it's meaningful. And that's kind of how I'm wired. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Walter, need to hear any more of the question or?
Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. So we were at question 6, community engagement and accountability. County commissioners play a key role in engaging with residents and ensuring accountability and decision-making. How would you improve communication and engagement in county government process?
Okay, well, Lincoln County is a big county, and there are parts of our county that aren't very well populated. I think that traveling to parts of the county that aren't as populated and make sure that we have a presence there. And that just doesn't mean just showing up for a county council meeting. It means attending an event there once in a while and showing that you care and that you are there to listen. The main thing I think we can do to help make sure that the county feels they're being served is to listen, like Commissioner Parker said. And the other thing is, policy decisions, have consequences, regardless of whether the policy is beneficial to you or not. Every time we make a decision, unfortunately, sometimes it's a take to somebody, and we need to make sure that we are able to explain that and make it understandable to residents of the county that what we are trying to do is for the best of the county, and that sometimes it might not be exactly what you wanted to, what you want, or exactly a direct benefit to you, but a benefit of the county is a benefit of the county. Going out to different parts, I think getting feedback, whether that be through social media. Personally, I like to do face-to-face. I think that we kind of lost the quality of engagement with COVID, and I think the engagement through Zoom is great, but I think that you lose a little bit of that contact if they don't see you face-to-face and have that contact, and so you can look someone in the eyes and shake their hand. I think that we need to make sure that regardless of what our roles are or what decisions we're making, that we make sure that the residents know that what we're doing is in the best interest of the county. And to do more outreach, I think we need to utilize staff. I think Ken does a great job of getting the information out, but we can always do better. Some people don't have social media and that's why I think that making sure that we go out there in person and give a presence. I think that means a lot to people. And the other thing is to make sure that, myself as a port commissioner, that you have connections with local officials. Make sure you work with them, attend their meetings. Representative Gomberg and Senator Anderson do a very good job of getting their word out and coming to our communities, making sure you have a good relationship with them. That way you can better relate the needs and maybe some issues coming up to the county with them, that whether we need to address financially or through the legislature, and then also have be able to contact other commissioners up and down the coast. Lincoln County just doesn't stand alone. What can be an issue up there in Tillamook County could be an issue down here. Same thing down in Curry County. So I think being able to have that broad experience and being able to have those relationships already built is good. Working with AOC, a lot of the rural counties face the same problems. I know that that's not exactly to Lincoln County, but there's we call it shared misery. We're all in the same boat. Especially as rural counties, whether it be getting funding, making sure that the needs of Lincoln County and other rural counties are addressed, and making sure that you can get our needs and make sure our needs are addressed in Salem, and then also through the federal channels. Make sure that those relationships are there. Those are very valuable, especially with the upcoming possibilities of government funding not being there. So I think that making sure that people see you out there doing your work, make sure you're meeting with them, and you can explain yourself. I've been part of a commission. I'm sure Commissioner Parker said it. There will be times where if I do get the position up there, I might not agree with what's going on, but I would go out there and I'd make sure that whether or not I was on the positive side or, maybe questionable, that I would go out there and I would support the decisions made by the county. And I think that showing a combined voice and making sure that, you give the support to the other two commissioners, to the staff, to other parts of the county, and the other workers, that they see you out there, that you're there to support the county and to do what's best, regardless of your personal feelings or how the votes came out. So there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I might have a little bit different answer than my other two cohorts here on the panel. So I would start off by saying with enthusiasm. So I have a genuine enthusiasm for this type of work, for public policy, for the kinds of problems and decision-making that has to happen at this county level, at city level, at any government level. I genuinely have a passion for breaking down that process and conveying that to others. So I would bring the enthusiasm to the entire county of the work that we do, the reason that we do the work, and who we hope to impact with the work, because it all boils down to who we're serving, the why we're serving. And so there needs to be a genuine conveyance of that enthusiasm so that the community knows that we're passionate about this. We care about this. We care about it because they care about it, because we also live here, because these things also impact us and our families. So that would be the first part of my answer. The second part of my answer would be that I'm a public individual. I have been for some time, as a book author, as a small business owner, as an educator. I have had the opportunity to be in front of the public, not always wanted, but I've had to take that role on and I've had to learn to be comfortable with it. So you have to be open and transparent with those, because insincerity reads clearly and loudly. So you have to be sincere and clear with the people that you're communicating with, and you have to be honest in all communication, because otherwise it fails and it falls hard. So another obvious answer probably for me would be that I would be a translator, not only with my enthusiasm and being able to convey complicated policy down to the nuts and bolts and what's important to you to know, but also with my language ability. So it's no secret that those that know me know that I've been able to do all of the work that I've done in my life in 2 languages. And I'm very proud of that, because I bring it to a community that's often left out and left behind. And so I think it's important to make access real, and reach all parts of our community, because it often isn't. And when we have a completely engaged community and all parts of our community are included, then we get real answers. We get real problems with real answers, and we have solutions that everyone can agree upon, because everyone's had part in the communication. So I think I would bring that to the public process. And as far as accountability is concerned, we do have a deep sense of accountability in all the work that we do in the public sphere, because we owe the time that we're allotted to the public, and we owe them accountability for what we do with their hard-earned tax dollars, with their concerns, with their safety. So all of those things are important to me, and I think I've had different instances in my career where I've had to be accountable for many things, not only in conveying the information, but in, for example, with Newport, getting the dollars needed to make programs happen, bringing new programs to the state that haven't been part of the state previously. In my work in the private sphere, I've had to deal with sensitive communication, not to the level of, let's say, the health care industry, but I've worked in credit and finance and had to to deal with people's confidential information. And there's a lot of accountability with having sensitive information about people's credit and finances. And so I've been able to navigate that. I've been able to make people feel comfortable with giving me their trust, and I've been accountable at every step of the way for the way that I've handled people's sensitive information and also with conveying information to the public.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. On to question number 7 now. And the order is Catherine, Ryan, and then Walter. And number 7, the availability of affordable housing is a growing concern for many Lincoln County residents, particularly for workers in essential industries. What policies or initiatives would you support to increase affordable housing and workforce development opportunities in the county?
Well, thank you for that question. I wrote my capstone project on affordable workforce housing. And the answer is really everything in the kitchen sink. We have to be willing and able to come up with anything possible and pursue every funding opportunity and to be as creative as we can. I was just reading recently about a program up at Clatsop. I think that's how you say it, Clatsop County, just north of us. And they're working on a private-public housing project where the healthcare workers are having trouble getting housing. And so they collaborated on a shared project where there will be some healthcare workers living right alongside low-income folks on a housing project. And that was a private-public collaboration to increase housing that serves 2 needs. We need to be that creative. We need to be ready to engage in partnerships. It's a very difficult realm. There's no doubt about it. We can collect system development fees because we need it for infrastructure, but then developers will tell you that that is a barrier for them to create housing. We don't have enough developers coming to this area, probably because of the income that's affordable here in this area. So that leaves the onerous here on the public realm, government, to provide some kinds of subsidies for those programs. There are lots that we can do. We have to be willing and ready to engage on all fronts. We need to come up with more creative financing options for people. And one thing I think that's lacking here in the county that could be added is that we don't have enough preservation of housing. So while we're busy trying to come up with the funding to create new housing, we also have to be actively engaged with preserving the housing that exists, helping our seniors with affordable handyman programs, and some infrastructure rehabilitation programs. I know that the funding is out there. We sometimes sublet that out to nonprofit agencies that don't have enough accountability here and don't develop those programs here. We need to have a housing department here that does that, that keeps an eye on the community and makes sure that the seniors can get the work done on their homes that's needed so that they don't become unhoused, and so that we can have homes that are ready to sell when they're ready to be passed on to the next group. A lot of first-time home buyers can't purchase the homes here in our community because they're so run down. They're not ready for purchase. They don't qualify for the kinds of financing that's available. So we need to be able to work with our banks to be creative with the financing, give us some opportunities to afford some financing for rehabilitation of our products. We can reach out to CDBG and get some funding so that we can prevent slum and blight from occurring, because that does occur here on the coast, and it's a shame because it's hard enough to create a brand new property. We need to be doing everything we can to support and sustain the properties that are here. I know that land trust is not a new topic for this community, but it seems far away, and it's happening more in Portland than it is here. We need to be engaged in that here. We need to hold on to the property, and we need to reduce the price of what's available to a single-family homeowner. And we can do that with a trust product. So we need to be able to get creative in that way and be able to have things closer to home instead of leaving them always to the nonprofits to do them and offer them far away from the coast where they're usually being offered. So housing is very important to me. I've been working on it for a long time. I think that there's no silver bullet for that. There's not going to be an easy fix, but we need to meet the needs of our community. We need to keep housing from becoming unusable. We need to be able to be adept at partnering and collaborating and do public-private partnerships when needed. I know that there are many, many employers, large employers here along the coast that need this for their employment. And if that's the case, I'm betting they're willing to collaborate on something like Clatsop did, where we can do a public and private project to provide housing for both types of housing needs.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks.
And Ryan.
You say the question again, please?
Sure. The availability of affordable housing is a growing concern for Lincoln County residents, particularly for workers in essential industries. What policies or initiatives would you support to increase affordable housing and workforce development opportunities in our county?
I thought that's what you had said the first time.
Yeah.
So I can tell you some personal stories of how this shakes out for everyday people that do manual labor like myself. So it's important to understand how much of people's income is going towards rent. I have some coworkers who are spending, well in excess of half their income on rent. That's very common, sometimes up to 60% around here. It's since COVID, there's been a lot of inflationary pressure on rents, and there's a lot of components to it, but therein lies the problem. And when Borenstein's fish meal plant was running, there were a number of seasonal workers, working at that plant that were living on the rocks down there in tents. And so you have to think about, all right, what wages are being people earning here versus much does it cost us to live? And the state economic numbers are out, and you can look those up, but it seems like what we could do as a measurable solution to some of these pressures is figure out what projects would conceptually be shovel ready that are near utilities, and what sort of abatements or set asides on tax liability could the county sustain, and then have the tough conversations with those developers and say, I hear what you're saying on what you want the SDCs to be, but our community needs this project to be ready to go. So where is there that hard conversation happening on concept of profit versus community benefit? I think that's a tough one, and I'd be willing to have that conversation. It wouldn't be easy, but I think we need to start looking at, everybody wants something. So how can the county get more of these housing projects going without, dipping into its reserve fund? The city's had some success with temporary housing for onboarding employees. We have a couple of apartments at Windhaven Ridge, and we're hoping to get more. So that may be a slice of the pie. Temporary housing for onboarded county employees. What would that look like? Would it be a dormitory for seasonals? Would it be, because the Forest Service does that down at Dean Creek in Douglas County. Would that be a fourplex that maybe a piece of property goes into receivership, and then a local contractor can bring in a local crew and build a fourplex, and then the county has 4 units to, as people become stable, get off trial service, and they have the resources to go into the general market. I think that's a way forward. We have to figure out how we can help secure through our representatives in Salem for funding housing startup costs. So that's the development, that's the permitting. How can we streamline the permitting? It's a preemptive state, of course, with land use planning. So as you know, maybe we can find a way to come to some grand compromise. It was mentioned a couple times. It is important to understand that this environment is very harsh on housing, and landlords spend a lot of expense on preserving units, but there are free programs and low-cost programs for weatherization where a landlord can make a less costly investment and plan that over time with some low-cost loans to make sure that their housing is their housing stays humanity focused, and they're not having to raise the rent because they're constantly fixing things that the weather undoes for them. So there's a code enforcement component as well. The city is considering, a number of cities around the state have property maintenance codes, and that is something to at least consider to see, all right, so there are enough houses. Some of this housing is substandard, but we know that those are the rents people can afford. But can we add a component of stability and kindness to it and talk about some sort of county housing code? And then there's always the cost to build, which gets a lot of the attention in the room, a lot of the helium in the balloon. But there's the cost to maintain and the cost to subsidize the 60, 80, 40%, subsidized rents that so many people, so many seniors, so many people with disabilities here rely on. And Lincoln County, as you know, has a pretty high disability rate for a lot of reasons, but a lot of retirees need that subsidy. And so how do we plan spec sheets when we build a county housing project, spec it in at the time of building, which will reduce the long-term costs? I've seen communities around the state do that with some success. Trying 3D printed houses. They're doing that over in Burns. They did a bunch of those. So all streams towards increasing the supply, but creative solutions to considering the budgetary realities.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Walter Chuck.
All right. Thank you again. Housing's I guess we'll call that another big gorilla in the room. Honestly, I think the county has done pretty good, working with state, local, and federal officials in addressing the housing needs. I think that as commissioners, working on policy to better facilitate the building of these structures. I think that I don't think the county should become a landlord. I don't think the county should start building things. I think that is best left to private entities and working with the cities. It's very easy to try and address all these problems, but I think as a commissioner, making sure that we are, us and staff are good facilitators to make sure that these issues are addressed and know that they exist. But I think that, to be honest, it would be very hard for the county to solve this problem by itself. It's an elephant that you can't eat in one bite. I hate that term. But to say that the county can just wave its hand and address this issue and take care of it is not true. And I think we need to be realistic that what the county can do best is to make sure that it provides the services for these people coming into the county, to make sure that whether that's through education, through OCCC, current residents can get better educated and be able to get more high-paying jobs. When we're looking at another company coming in here, economic development, make sure that we talk to them and say, you do realize that we have housing needs. NOAA was another example of that. Some of the NOAA people, they live in Corvallis. They couldn't afford to make housing here. And, we just need to understand that there is a shortage of housing. There's not a lot of flat ground, as has been said before. But I think the best thing that the county can do is make sure that we have the staff and the ability to connect the right people and to make sure that these things can happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
Right. Okay, we are moving to question 8. Mr. Chuck, we're going to start with you on this one. And question 8 is county infrastructure and public services.
Okay.
Maintaining and improving county roads, public transportation, and essential services is critical to supporting residents and businesses. What are your priorities for infrastructure investment, and how would you address funding challenges? I'm happy to repeat anything if you need it.
Sure, just give me a second to breathe.
Yes.
Okay. Infrastructure is everybody's, it's a big bugaboo. I mean, we can look at, small places where I work. Infrastructure is old. whether that's water, sewer, you're going to have leaks. I think the county dealt really good with some of the septic issues. I think that's really great. That's good for environmentally and also health-wise. Um, there's, it's, it's not something we can easily solve. We need to look at whether it's going to be state or federal or, state or federal grants. Roads, we have highway taxes. That money is fuel efficient vehicles. The money available through ODOT is less and less through highway taxes. Connect Oregon, that's another grant program through the state that we can address. I know that that's very competitive also. What we need to understand is that the residents of Lincoln County use our infrastructure, but what, in my talks with some of our legislators is that the state needs to do a better job of investing in infrastructure in the rural communities. The residents of the other counties, say the I-5 corridor, they have much bigger impact on our roads and infrastructure than our residents do when we go visit them. And realize that a dollar spent in Lincoln County on infrastructure here is the same as $10 in the Portland or in the metro area. And to make sure that cost savings is there and highlight that when we go ask for those monies in Salem. As far as improving infrastructure, working with the city is always, working on that and, making sure we work collaboratively with the other entities within Lincoln County to see what their needs are, whether that be water, sewer, burying lines. I know being concerned with fires, making sure that those lines get underground or make sure that the brush gets cleared away from them, invasive weeds and things like that grow up in the other spaces, and just addressing safety. Making sure that the roads are safe. Filling in potholes. I know that our road maintenance does a very good job of that. And making sure that they are funded. And then if we are looking at reductions in budget, make sure that those needs are priority, because we need to be able to get around the county and make sure that our water flows and make sure that everyone's septic is not flowing into the rivers. And yeah, that would be my suggestions.
Thank you.
Okay.
My next, okay.
Yeah.
Well, full disclosure for me, an effort to be transparent, I will say that I'm currently on the governor's Oregon Bike Pedestrian Committee, and I also serve on ODOT's Universal Accessibility Committee, and those are two priorities of mine. They're access to good roads is important. ADA access to good roads is important to me, but I also will say that I have learned more about water and wastewater in my time here in Oregon than I ever thought I wanted to know. So as a city employee, I've been deeply committed to the infrastructure in this community. Ryan mentioned that we have a dam issue. It's all consuming, but it's not our only issue as far as infrastructure goes in the city of Newport. And so I currently manage about $30 million, just over $30 million of infrastructure funding, both federal and state, that supports all of the many needs that the city of Newport has. So what are my priorities? My priorities are that we access every dollar that we can. We need to be going after all of it because so is everyone else, right? It's a very competitive opportunities that are available out there from federal and state, and we need to, as a county, go after all of it. And I think we can do a great job being a convener. Now in the federal funding world, it's more important to be collaborative. That scores higher in grant funding. So we need to not only ask for funding, but we need to be able to pull communities together. So we need to be able to work with the tribe. We need to be able to work across departments. We need to be able to pull all of our cities together and do more collaborative projects to get the greatest amount of funding. We need to go after it from everywhere. I don't know that this community has gone after a lot of economic development funding for infrastructure. There is funding out there for infrastructure. I don't know that we're going after CDBG funding for infrastructure. That is also available. We know that the legislature will make known shortly some funding for infrastructure related to housing. And because housing is a priority everywhere, we need to be going after the funding that's going to be available once those rules are released, and then we can go after that. Roads are important, and we know that the tourism tax helps to pay for that, but the tourism tax needs to pay for much more. And I know that we're currently lobbying the legislature to expand the use of that infrastructure tax funding. I've heard from the league that we need to give them, we as communities need to give them more ammunition in that fight. We need to give them dollars. We need to give them a percentage. What are we talking about when we say we want more of those funds to go for infrastructure? We need to be pulling that data together for them so that we can hit them with numbers that they can take back and fight for us to get. So I think that the legislature needs to know, what are we talking about? Is that a 5% increase? Is that a 10% increase? Will that take care of all of our infrastructure needs, or is that just a dip in the bucket? We need to be prepared to answer those questions, and I think that we can do that. So my priorities would be that we go after that funding. We go after all the funding that we can while it's available so that we can deal with our infrastructure. And we need to make sure that it's not just roads. We know that we're in desperate need of upgrades everywhere across all of our systems. And seismic is another layer of upgrade that we need to be also responsible for and planning for. So if we're not able to do it now, we need to have a 7-year plan, and we need to have a 10-year plan, and we need to have a 15-year plan as systems age and we continue to need to have those services available for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on a sec, I'm working on my memoirs.
Thanks.
All right, so yeah, this is really important stuff. So when you think about core public services, you have to frame it in the sense that a lot of what the county provides, especially the public health folks, those are life-sustaining services, and they're also life-improving, and we want both. And so I think as a parent, I think quality of life is affected greatly by public safety, and petty crime and those sorts of things really erode people's sense of security, their sense of place, their sense of, happiness. And I think we need to look at making sure that we can get the sheriff's office to patrol and to work on reducing crime in everywhere that we can. And if if there's an area that doesn't have enough budget, we need to maybe move money from somewhere else and make sure that every community in Lincoln County is getting patrolled, and people feel when they call the sheriff's office, whether it's for emergency or not, that they're getting accurate information and a response to feel safe. I think there's a lot of infrastructure that needs upgraded. I know at the city, we've been working on our sewer plant's 25 years old, and we have a refurbishment plan, and we're in the second phase of that. We need millions of dollars. And so to Kathy's point, like, all funding streams need to be shake the last potato out of the bag. We need to find ways to get these projects funded. And the good news is, for bridges and roads, this is a very topical thing because the legislature is about to probably give ODOT more money than they've ever given them, with the understanding that the 2017 amount of money they were given, there wasn't 100% transparency. So when we're looking at bridges and roads, everybody uses it, everyone, regardless of what they do, everyone needs those. And I think the Association of Oregon Counties could be helpful in helping rural communities understand that ODOT's priority, to Walter's point, is in the metro area, and we need to make sure the priority is all roads that are traveled by county residents who are paying taxes into those funds. As far as county rights of way, I think we need to do a bolstered sign project to make sure that roads are adequately signed and safe. And the weeds along the rights of way that the county manages, we have a great applicator in the county, but he's on medical leave. And so that work is just so incredibly important, because noxious weeds affect water quality. They affect salmon, and we maybe want to look at doing some bioswales and along county roads to protect salmon, because the evidence shows that higher pollution is affecting our salmonid species in a much more detrimental way than we first knew about before that research was done. Lifeline roads, from landslides. The Bay Road has all sorts of Jersey barriers on it because the hill's sliding, and that's an economic lifeline between Toledo and Newport. We need to make sure that we find funding to do stabilization, and we're going to have to reach out to Dogami and get their expertise on the state dime to fix these rural roads that have landslide potential, because we know that even the mainline roads on 20 are affected by landslides, and so we need to make sure that our roads are safe to not impact our economy. We're making measured improvements. Soil and Water Conservation District is doing great work. And we need to make sure that we find funding to support the smaller water providers in those utilities around the county that are giving water and sewer services to the rural parts of our county, and make sure that they're supported in that important effort of providing clean drinking water, monitoring the septic systems around the county, and making sure that we do what we can to reduce wildfire risk from overhead lines. There's a lot to be done, and it's an exciting opportunity to help get that work completed and funded. Funded first, I guess, then completed.
Thank you. And we're now up to question number 9, our final question. And the order will be Ryan, Walter, and Catherine. And so here we go. The topic is intergovernmental and regional collaboration. Lincoln County often works with state agencies, neighboring jurisdictions, and tribal governments on various issues, from land use planning to public safety. How would you strengthen collaboration with other government entities to benefit county residents? And again, Ryan, you're first, to be followed by Walter and Catherine.
Well, I think a lot of that collaboration is already occurring. And I think there's been a lot of great success, and especially what the county's done to work with the tribe and what the tribal council has done to bolster quality of life for not just enrolled members, but for a lot of the eastern part of the county. I think their footprint is massive economically. I think there's benefits to everyone from what's already occurring. But again, at risk of repeating myself, I think it goes back to relationship building. I've spent the last 6 years forming a great relationship with their state rep. I think he's doing really good work. And what I like most about what he does is he brings home measured quality of life improvements for everywhere, not just for the main, here's the county seat, but he does great work. He got water storage tanks for Waldport. The list goes on and on. And what makes that successful is it's outcomes based. So there's all these projects that need funding, and we know that some of them help more people than others, but you have to take a measured and thoughtful approach on it, and making sure that everything that you're spending money on relates out to quality of life. So water projects, sewer projects, road projects, those are all quality of life issues. They're also about resource protection, and it's important to make sure that anything that we're working on focuses on water supply and making sure that our younger residents in the county have an opportunity to continue to live here and thrive, keeping in mind the pressures of climate change, keeping in mind drier summers create more wildfire risk. So there's an educational opportunity included in that, and that we can have success, we can have economic outcomes, but also we have to bolster and harden our infrastructure to make sure that those external threats like unpredictable weather aren't going to impact county operations. And there's a lot of great work. There's a lot of subject matter expertise that we can bring in and use to have a better outcome for all the operations that the county currently employees, and then also making sure that the workforce is empowered to go to emerging training and emerging science and learning about that and incorporating that into their jobs so that we're even more bolstered and more hardened for an uncertain future. However, it's an opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity. And I do feel that that person-to-person relationship building is the key to it all. And a lot of that's already occurring, but a lot of it could be, you just got to spend the time. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure.
Thanks.
It's about intergovernmental and regional collaboration. The county often works with state agencies, neighboring jurisdictions, and tribal governments on various issues, from land use planning to public safety. How would you strengthen collaboration with other government entities to benefit county residents?
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. So relationships are what it's all about. And, I've been a court commissioner for over 12 years now. I served on OPAC, the Ocean Policy Advisory Council. I've been a member of the board of OCZMA, the Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association. I've been working with a lot of our coastal legislators for a long time. David Brock Smith, I knew him when he was a county commissioner, and it's all about relationships, and you just can't snap your fingers and have those there. I served on the BOEM Task Force for intergovernmental, the Intergovernmental Task Force for offshore energy. I've gone to Washington to lobby for the port, and also as a member of the Oregon Wild Sheep Foundation for wildlife. It's all about being able to reach out to those people. And if you don't have those relationships already, it's really hard to pick up the phone and cold call your federal representative, your state representative, and say, hey, I have a problem here. So you really need to have those relationships already built. I think I have that. And if you don't have those good relationships, it's not, it can be a detriment to your county because, like I said, if they don't know who you are and they're not used to dealing with you, it's very hard to get in that door. And I think the other part is making sure that as commissioners, you're a team. And I think that you need to be able to show that not only are you going there to represent yourself as a commissioner, but also that the decisions made by the commission in the past are sound decisions, and that you come with the ability to say, hey, look, I'm not just asking for this one thing. We have a history of doing things well. We might have had some issues in the past or what have you, but make sure that you're speaking with a cohesive voice and that you're representing your commission, your council, or whatever in a manner in which you can get things done and they can take you seriously. So, you can phrase it however you want, but I think that having experience that I have, I think that's a very good thing to bring to the table. And being a known entity and having dealt with me before, I think, or dealing with, as in Councilor Ryan's aspect, knowing what they're getting and being able to present that, and that you will be able to speak to them frankly and honestly, and they can rely on what they hear from you. And when they call you, they're used that you will deal with them in an honest and frank manner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
And Catherine.
So intergovernmental collaboration is so important, and the county is well positioned to be a key convener in that area. I think that what some of the communities, incorporated or otherwise, are lacking is capacity, right? So everyone has good intentions and great ideas, but not always the capacity to carry out either going after funding opportunity or to deliver a new program or a new initiative. And so the county is well positioned to be able to do that and increase capacity across the coastal community, and to partner with other communities across state lines, and with the tribe. I think I've had work in grant funding. We've had to work a lot of times as a subrecipient. So I've had great opportunities to work with OEM and DLCD. I've also had opportunity to reach out to the tribe recently. And there's a great word, technical assistance, that's being offered by states now because they understand that the opportunities aren't accessible to all communities if they don't understand or have the capacity to reach these funding opportunities. And so that's being offered at a greater level now at the state level. And so that's really impactful, and the county can really expand upon that and convene groups together and have mutual collaboration. And that's important because we have mutual preservation, right? We all have the same goals. We're all trying to get through this together with the many challenges that are coming at us. There's going to be economic challenges, but we have sustainability challenges, we have housing challenges, we have workforce challenges. And so it's a matter of mutual preservation. And just as an example of how I've been able to do that in a small way is I've been working in my capacity as a grant manager with Gloria Engel, who's the grant manager for the tribe. And together we've wanted to expand that collaboration and that camaraderie to work together. And she put me together with Kimberly Lane, who manages the health clinic and specializing in some funding that she has for diabetic prevention for her community. And I've been able to secure a grant for the city that's the first of its kind in the state, and that's for this Pool Safely Grant program that allows free swim lessons to happen. So we're collaborating on some health and education and some free swim class opportunities with the tribe, and we've been able to establish a good working rapport. They have an MOU that they've prepared, and they're ready and willing to work with all communities when they see the mutual assistance we can be to one another. And so those respectful opportunities occur often, I think, in government, and we just need to capitalize on them because we are all just trying to build that capacity along the coast here, and we really need to work with one another to make great opportunities happen.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Yes.
We are at the point of concluding this work session. I just want to really thank the three finalists who are here right now. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest. And thank you for your willingness, I was going to say to serve communities, but all three of you are already serving our communities, I guess to serve in another way. So again, I want to recap what I've mentioned a couple of times before. We're not going to have deliberation or a decision today. Provide Commissioner Miller and I some time for reflection. So this will be scheduled as a decision item 1 week from today, Wednesday, February 19th, at our regular meeting, 10 a.m. in this room, both in person and hybrid. So for now, we are adjourned.
Thank you.